Back at the Corvette again. I'm gonna be doing a quick little pad slap and flush the brake fluid. It's pretty easy on these cars. Pretty much like all the GM cars are all the same. Just do, you take a couple, 1-2 bolts off, you flip it up, take the pads out, grease it, put new pads in, and then to flush it, there's one bleeder valve. I'm just gonna do a pad slap because I plan on upgrading to the 6-piston Z06 brakes later on, so they'll just get me by for the meantime because it brakes right now. So I'm gonna get to it. A lot of people want to use an impact gun on taking off the lug nuts. I will advise first using a regular breaker bar to loosen the nuts first, especially on older cars, because it's real easy to strip these threads. Not so much on like a truck or bigger vehicle will have larger threads, but on like the lower threads that are like 19, 17 millimeter, you got to use your breaker bar to loosen it first. Alright, to get the pads off, just want to take off this bolt and then loosen this bolt, and then they'll be able to flip down. Or if you want to flip up, just loosen this bolt and then take out this bolt and it'll flip up. And that's all you need to do for a pad slap. Probably going to do that. So as you can see, we pulled the bolt out. This was a 15 millimeter. You just loosen that one. It's just slide just like that. Real easy. Just pull the pads off. This one had a little bit life left. A little bit. It was screeching like crazy though. I didn't like it. See the wear sensor. Had a little bit of life left, but I didn't like the way you're screeching. So I took them off. These brackets, some brake pads come with new ones. Some don't. Don't really worry about it too much. As long as they're not rusted, they're still in good shape. Don't worry about that too much. I'm gonna go ahead and get the tool I need. Okay, so I got my tool. Just a regular caliper compressor. You can get it for about 10 bucks, maybe even $5 online, or I got this one from AutoZone for I think $5 or $10. Had it for a while now. So this is dual piston. The way to do this is first, I get some grease. I like to get some grease. Put it on the cylinder first. This way, when it goes back in, it'll go back in smoothly, and you don't have to worry about it binding up and tearing the rubber. And then what you do is you grab, first thing, make sure they're the correct. I don't know how many times I got the wrong pads, but yeah, these are the correct ones. And then what I like to do is put this in. Because this is dual piston, you're gonna need the extra strength to get it in correctly. And then I press the right here, like that. And it puts them in both at the same time. Just like that. And then before I start cranking away, make sure it's flush. And then also go to your master cylinder and check if it's full. If it's full, that means there's too much fluid in it. If your pads are all the way down and this is full, so I gotta take some fluid out. Otherwise, if I compress it, it might not happen on the first one, but on like the second or third one, this is gonna start overflowing and you can bust your cap. get brake fluid everywhere, and you don't want that. So what I like to do, especially when I'm changing the fluid anyways, is just go ahead and just suck some out. That's a precaution measure. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all that. So I twisted it down. It's still not seated all the way, you can see. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. Loosen it. Bring it on the other side. And then go ahead and finish the rest. Because sometimes this gets really tight. So what I like to do is grab a rag. You can also get one with a tool, that makes it a lot easier, but I like to get a rag. It just helps to press it down. And you just loosen it up. And your pad should be ready to go back in. And then after you got them compressed in as far as you can, you want to go ahead, slide this out, and you want to put grease on this. Sorry. You want to put, sorry to do it one hand. You want to put grease on this pin right here. Put grease there. Pull this one out. You just pull it. It takes a little effort because of the rubber boot, but pull that one out. Put grease on there, and then you want to put grease on the ends. Caliper up. You want to put some grease on, get some light, the back right here, put grease here on the ends, and that's it. Those are the only spots that get grease. The pin here, this pin on the caliper, and then grease on the back, and then on the ends. And not too much either, just a little bit. Okay, so after you get the pads in, you put the grease right here, here, and on the back. These pads, they just like, they go in like this. You put them in the ends first. So hard one-handed. Okay, so you put the ends first, and it should just click right in like that. And then all you gotta do is just slide this up like that, and then put the bolts back in. This bolt with a little bit of Loctite if you want. This one still got some on it, so I'm not gonna put any. Just put it on like that. And then you get your brake clean after you tighten these bolts. I think it's to 15 foot-pounds or 20 foot-pounds. I don't know, I do everything by hand. I don't really focus foot-pounds too much on torque specs, on too much on stuff like this. Then you get your brake clean, you spray this whole area, spin it a couple of times, make sure everything's free, spray it again. You can spray the back too if you want. It's a little bit harder to do. It's not really too necessary unless you got a bunch of grease on it. And then that's it for the pad slap on the front. It's the same thing on the other side. And then I'll show you the rears. Another thing that might happen is that sometimes when you're loosening this bolt, this part will spin and it won't let you come out, let the bolt come out. So all you do is you grab a wrench. This one is 18 millimeter. Just slide it on there like that, and then hold that, and you should be able to loosen the bolt. Just like that. And it should just come right out, because like you see it spins. This one's a little tight. But yeah, that's how you can, it's the same way in the fronts too. Same as a little step I missed. But it's the same way in the front. This one wasn't spinning, so I didn't have to worry too much about it. And probably you have to do the same thing for tightening if you have to. That side I wasn't able, I didn't have to do it, but this side I got to. That's usually how it is on the rears for some reason. I guess because they get used less. so they're a little more tight sometimes. The rears of these, it's a little bit different. Not really, same exact thing really. This one you're not able to just hold it down because it hits since it's so small. So just unbolt both. Just pull it right out, put it out of the way, put it on top of the control arm. Do not let this hang. It can tear your brake line. You do not want that. But just pull it out the way and you're able to get these pads and just pull them right out. Super easy. Same exact process on the front. You just rip these out. They clamp, the new ones just clamp in. Get everything cleaned up. Sometimes this is rusted. This is aluminum, so it's not rusty. Some of them are cast iron or steel. So you gotta get a wire brush and just rub this out a little bit, all these ends, to get the new clips on. For Corvettes, you don't have to worry about too much because it's aluminum. So those don't rust at all. You don't have to worry about, unless dirt or debris gets stuck in here, which sometimes does happen. Other than that, same process. Pull these pins out, put some grease on them, throw them back in, and then put the new pads on. Very simple. Okay, so after you get done doing all your calipers, make sure you go around, make sure you tighten everything, do a second go around and make sure everything's tight, just to make sure. That's how I like to do it. You're gonna come over to your brake reservoir, pull this cap off, and I like to use a little pump for like fluid, make sure it's clean. And you're just gonna stick it inside. I'm not gonna do this with one hand. I don't want to get brake fluid everywhere. But basically you just keep pumping and pump all the fluid out until there's nothing left. And then you want to fill it with some fresh, clean brake fluid. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, after you fill it with fresh, clean fluid, what I like to do is go to each bleeder valve and just loosen them. Make sure they all loosen freely. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, remember that. Make sure they all come out freely and just tighten them back up. Do that to all four sides. Just come over here. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, remember that. Okay, after you got them all loose, and then you tighten them all back up just to make sure they're all free. Just before you do this, so just in case one of them breaks, you don't have to worry about it going to the store and doing all that stuff, because you have to get new bleeder valve. I pretty much come up with this contraption. All you do is you fill this up with brake fluid, a little bit at the bottom, and then this is this little hose. I forgot how thick this is. I think it's 1/4 inch. And I put this little fitting on the side, and I put 2 zip ties. So basically, it goes right over. The bleeder valve is nice and tight. And you press like this, and then make sure to go over like that, so that when the fluid comes out, the air gets stuck here and doesn't go back in. And then basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here, get in the car, and start pressing the brake pedal. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that, and I'll show y'all how to do it. So got it connected. Go ahead, loosen this up. Just like that. Make sure it's pretty loose. And then what you want to do is come over to the car, get in the car, and then press the brake pedal slowly down, all the way to the floor. It's gonna go all the way down to the floor. And then you bring it back up slowly. And it repeats. Keep doing this at least maybe like 10 or 12 times. And you want to start on the back rear on the right side because that's the furthest away. So this one's going to take the most fluid out of all of them. Just do it nice and slow. And then after a couple of times, come back out. Check the fluid level. Let's see if it's nice and clear. You want to do this until it's pretty clear inside. So this one needs a couple more tries. There's a couple more times. Nice and slow. The reason you don't want to go too fast is because you have a more chance of getting air bubbles going really fast. You want to do it nice and slow. Alright, that should be good enough. Check. Nice and clean now. That tells me the caliper is nice and clean now, and all you want to do is, before you pull off the hose, put your wrench in and tighten this bolt back up. Tighten, not loosen. It's hard to tell sometimes. Yeah, just tighten it back up. Nice and snug. Don't make it super tight, just nice and snug. Doesn't take much. And then you pull this off. You should see the fluid just go nice down in there. Got all the bad fluid out. And this side is done. Make sure it's nice and tight. Go back. Close that door. Over here to the reservoir. Fill it back up. Shouldn't take much. Fill it back up to the top. And do that for each side. Starting from the rear on this side, rear right, then go to rear left, and then go to right front, and then finally closest to the master cylinder, and that side's the farthest. Just pretty much until it's clean, and then once it's clean, for your last one after doing this one, fill it up to the max line. Don't go any higher than that. Right now it doesn't matter too much since we're going to be putting brake fluid in and out, but once you get to this last wheel, fill it up to the max line. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, after you get done flushing it, doing all 4 sides, you're gonna come back over here, and then you want to go ahead, pump the brakes a few times, get them nice and closed up, and then go ahead and start your engine so the brake booster can get activated. Let it build a little pressure. It's gonna feel loose at first. You're gonna have to pump it up a little bit. After a while, it'll get hard. And after that, make sure it's nice and firm. And then what you want to do is go back to your fluid level after all that's done. Check if it's at the max line. If not, it's perfect. And pretty much you're done with this part. Next, what you're gonna have to do is lower the car and just drive around normally. You don't need to go super fast and brake hard. You don't need to do any of that. The only time you need to do that if you have racing pads. You need to heat them up so they can get embedded. But if you just got normal brake pads like the ones I got, all you gotta do is just drive around normally, stop and go traffic to get them bedded in. Go ahead and do that part. Okay, sorted out. I'm gonna put the wheels back on and then go ahead and torque them down. I'm gonna do 110 foot-pounds. The torque spec is 100 foot-pounds. I'm gonna do 110 because my torque wrench is 10 years old, and then also the threads on the lug nuts are not brand new anymore. So I like to put it up just a little bit, 5 foot-pounds or 10 foot-pounds. I'm gonna do 110 foot-pounds instead of 100, just to accommodate for both those things. So go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm testing the car now. Just doing light little brakes here and there. Just normal driving, nothing crazy. Stop sign. Make a left. Everything's braking nice and fine. Yeah. I sneeze. Speed bump. Up next is going to be the shocks. I'm just saving up a little bit. They cost quite a bit. It's going to be almost $2,000. We're really about $1,700, $1,800, almost $2,000. Each shock is like $400. Not too bad. It's not like the C5s. The C5s are horrible. It's like $1,000 each. This one's only going to be $400 each. Not too bad. right here. It's hard to do with one hand. I shouldn't even be driving like this, to be honest. Got a little speed bump. Brake's good now. No more squealing like before. That squeal was really annoying, especially when it was cold. He's squealing really loud. And then when it was hot, you can really smell them. It smelled like burning clutch when I knew it was the brakes. Now it's really good. No squeals, no nothing. Brake pedal's nice and smooth. No vibrations. Really enjoy it. That's gonna be the end of the vid.